Okay, welcome to the deep dive.
Hey there.
Today we're plunging into a topic that is truly fascinating, I think. Definitely steeped in culture and frankly quite chilling.
Yeah, we're talking about skinwalkers.
Yeah.
These deeply unsettling figures from Navajo folklore. And we've been looking at some source material, specifically an article from Historic Mysteries. It's called Skinwalkers, Nightmare Witches from Navajo Myth.
That's the one. So our mission for this deep dive is really to take what that article lays out, the origins, the eerie abilities, the legends, and really try to understand what makes these figures so terrifying and, why these stories have such staying power and what that tells us about the legends themselves, all through the lens of this source.
Okay, so let's just dive right in. If someone's maybe not familiar, the first question has to be, what are we even talking about when we say skinwalker in, like, the traditional Navajo context?
Well, based on the source material, the core idea is that they are malevolent witches. That's the starting point. They're rooted squarely in traditional Navajo folklore, and the name itself comes directly from their most, infamous ability, shapeshifting.
Right. Shape-shifting.
They can literally take on the form of animals, and sometimes, the stories say, even humans, by sort of donning their skin.
And the article, it really emphasizes that this change, this transformation, it's not always perfect, clean.
No.
It points out they're often depicted with sinister features, and specifically, this is creepy, they keep their human eyes, even when they're in animal form.
Ugh, yeah. That detail alone, it just adds this layer of, fundamental wrongness to the whole image, doesn't it?
It really does. And you see hints of that in modern takes, too, right?
Absolutely. Tales of them walking on two legs while in animal form or moving at these, supernatural speeds.
It goes beyond just changing shape.
Yeah.
Their power set is broader than that.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
As the article explains, they can apparently perfectly mimic the sounds and behaviors of whatever creature they're imitating.
Think about that for a second. I mean, that makes them incredibly difficult to spot.
Exactly. Or tell apart from a real animal, until it's maybe too late. And, well, they are witches, so they wield dark magic.
Right, which is used for some really dark stuff, according to the source.
Yeah, things like inflicting harm on others, controlling minds just by meeting someone's gaze. Can you imagine that?
It's terrifying.
And even causing death through curses. It really paints a picture of something incredibly powerful and just purely destructive.
So given how tied these stories are to a specific culture, a specific place, where do the legends primarily reside? Where are we talking about geographically?
The source is very clear on this. Their main association is with the Navajo Nation, that huge territory that spans across parts of the southwestern U.S.
Okay.
The article specifically mentions Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, and Colorado.
Right. And it describes the kind of landscape they inhabit too, doesn't it? Remote, desolate.
Empty, arid areas. Yeah. The article calls this the perfect backdrop, which makes a lot of sense, actually. I mean, these are places where it's easy to feel isolated, where strange things might happen and be hard to explain.
And fear of the unknown just gets amplified by the sheer emptiness, right?
Exactly. And the article notes that modern encounters, or reported encounters, are almost always in these kinds of secluded spots.
Okay, so we have a sense of what they are, where they're said to be found. Now, this is where understanding the cultural context feels absolutely vital. The article really stresses the sensitivity around this whole topic for the Navajo people.
Yeah, that's a crucial point. It's not like how they might get treated in, Western pop culture sometimes.
Like just another spooky creature, a monster of the week kind of thing.
Right. The article highlights that for many Navajo people, these are seen as a very real, very present threat. There's this deep-seated belief that even just talking about skinwalkers, especially with outsiders, well, it risks drawing their attention, their ire.
Wow. That level of genuine fear. It tells you just how deeply ingrained these stories are, doesn't it?
It really does. So, according to the folklore that the source discusses, where do these beings actually come from? What's the origin story?
Well, the typical story involves individuals who were once good people, sometimes even respected figures, like medicine men or women.
Okay.
Who then made a terrible choice. They turned to dark magic. Willingly.
And what was the driver? What pushed them down that path?
Essentially a lust for power. The legends portray them as corrupted, like beyond any redemption, just purely malevolent, existing only to harm others, and fueled by things like hate and greed.
The article also mentions there might be slightly different takes on why they kill, right?
Yes, it does. It mentions that some tales say they actually have to take human lives to fuel their powers, or, they'll perish themselves.
A kind of grim necessity.
Yeah. While other versions are even darker, suggesting they kill purely for enjoyment, just pure malice, a manifestation of their total corruption.
And their methods, the way they operate as described in the source.
Right.
It sounds like they're designed to maximize terror.
Oh, absolutely. Stalking their prey, terrorizing and taunting victims before the killing. And that one detail that really stands out.
The mimicking.
Yeah, mimicking the cries of loved ones to lure people out. That just feels uniquely cruel and terrifying.
It really does. And what makes them so insidious, according to these legends, is that it's not just about running into them out in the wilderness.
Right. The stories also describe their ability to infiltrate human communities, to actually take on the appearance of neighbors or acquaintances.
Imagine the kind of paranoia that would breed. Just not knowing who you can trust, who might be hiding something truly monstrous underneath.
Yeah. And the source connects them to other forms of witchcraft, too. Dark rituals, using spells and curses as part of their toolkit.
So if we step back and look at the deeper purpose of these stories within the tradition itself, the article suggests they function as cautionary tales, doesn't it?
Exactly. They serve as warnings, basically. Warnings against the temptation of dark magic, spelling out the severe, irredeemable consequences of choosing that path.
And what's really striking is that these aren't just, old historical myths gathering dust. The article makes it pretty clear that these legends are alive today. They still command genuine fear and respect within the Navajo community.
Now, shifting gears just a little bit, the article also acknowledges that there are modern claims, modern sightings, and it touches on attempts to offer alternative explanations.
Right. You definitely see this, particularly online. Places like YouTube are full of alleged footage.
Yeah. And while the article acknowledges many are likely hoaxes,
Sure.
It does note that some are presented in a way that people outside the Navajo Nation find convincing. And this leads to a sort of broader belief in these figures as, literal shape-shifting monsters.
Oh, okay. So when people try to rationalize these accounts, what kind of explanations does the article mention?
Well, several possibilities come up.
Like maybe misinterpreting strange things that happen in those vast remote landscapes.
Exactly. Or simply mistaking sightings of, say, rare or unfamiliar animals for something supernatural.
Makes sense.
It also brings up the possibility of strange behaviors from people, maybe suffering from mental illness or, intoxication being misinterpreted.
The article even specifically mentions rabies, doesn't it? As something sometimes used to explain weird animal behavior in other monster stories.
Yeah, it does draw that parallel. And another angle the source suggests is that the fear of skinwalkers could potentially serve a function of social control within the Navajo community.
How so?
Like discouraging certain behaviors or maybe warning people away from wandering into dangerous areas by attributing negative consequences to these creatures.
And it points out that this kind of mechanism using stories to guide behavior isn't unique, right? You see it in legends and religions across many cultures.
Absolutely. And this is where the article makes a really critical point. Offering these alternative rational explanations, it doesn't or shouldn't diminish the cultural significance or the deep reverence these tales hold within the Navajo community itself. It's really important to understand that many Navajo people do take these stories very, very seriously, and that belief deserves respect.
Absolutely. Whether you personally lean towards a supernatural explanation or a more rational one, the legend itself and its place in that culture, it demands respect. Full stop.
So to kind of bring this deep dive toward a close, the source really frames skinwalkers as being among the most terrifying creatures in all of Native American folklore.
Yeah, maybe rivaled only by something like the Wendigo, perhaps.
Possibly. They maintain this powerful, chilling presence across the southwestern U.S., a figure of fear, a figure of legend, regardless of how someone chooses to interpret the stories. And it's worth repeating, like the article does, that while pop culture might borrow them for entertainment now,
Yeah, movies, TV shows.
for the Navajo people, this is often still a living belief. It carries very real weight.
So whether you land on the side of supernatural belief or prefer a rational explanation, the legend of the Skinwalker really stands as this potent example of storytelling, cultural depth, and, well, enduring fear.
Which kind of leaves us with a final thought for you, the listener, to consider. If these legends are so deeply woven into the cultural fabric of a community and taken so seriously, what does that tell us about the power of belief itself, the power of storytelling?
Yeah. What stands out to you the most about these really chilling figures and the stories that surround them?
It really makes you think, doesn't it, about how powerful a story can be, shaping fears, behaviors, culture across generations.
A truly deep dive into the nature of belief.
Indeed it is.